I've covered for you long enough. I might sound a little rough. I'm wearing orange now and so you Scott, you did this and now Scott. Now I know why. Now I know why. Now I know why. It was you, Scott, you, and now I know why. I asked you where your dad was. Where was Big Daddy? You got so angry when I went to feed the baby goat. Now Scott, now I know why. Now I know why. Now I know why. It was you, Scott, you, and now I know why.
Get up.
Where your dad was. Where was Big Daddy? You got so angry when I went to feed the baby goat. Now Scott, now I know why. Now I know why. Now I know why. It was you, Scott, you, and now I know why. I am hella mad and burning with rage, Scott, and now I know why.
When she was upset with Gary's belief, she talked about, she said, my response to
I am hella mad and burning with rage, Scott, and now I know why. Now I know why. Now I know why. It was you, Scott, you, and now I know why. Now I know why. It was you, Scott, you, and now I know why. I am hella mad and burning with rage, Scott, and now I know why.
I'm gonna miss the song too. It's like, can we keep the series going just to play the song? Damn. And I'm just like, I just started doing the whole saxophone emoji thing when the sax kicks in, and that's fun. I am hella mad and burning with rage, Scott. Now I know why. Yes, yes. Oh, welcome, Gomez. Hi. Have you not heard that before? Are you new? Don't think I've seen you in chat before. First time here and hearing the song. Oh, wow. I hope you enjoyed it. I do have a little bit of a thing for, like, if it's a long running series, I make a song. Yeah. I get a band in and they play and I write the lyrics for them and make the arrangement, and like I say, no, start again. No, start again. It's not good enough. Now I think I need a saxophone over there. Yes. I don't know yet. I may. One thing I realized after I said it was a finale is that we haven't watched the actual sentencing, which the sentencing is the thing. It's the reason why we're doing all this. So we may still have another one yet. Maybe. Yes, man. First time here. I subbed Friday through Prof's Live. Okay. And totally cool. I loved it. Oh, that's nice of you. Well, good to see you. Welcome. Welcome. Well, today we're going to have some fun because we're at the end of the closing arguments. We stopped the closing arguments last time because it was getting so boring. So we're at the end of the boring part. We're at the fire part of the closing arguments, apparently. So we did finale part 1. Well, no. We did closing arguments part 1. And we're doing closing arguments part 2, and apparently there's props and everything, right? There's even a moment of like, she's not the killer. He's guilty. I can't wait. Yeah. Wait a minute. Dali's here. Hey!
I was premature.
You were a bit premature then. Hello, how are you, mate?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Always up for fun, Half Irish. Yes, Half Irish is always up for fun. This is a fun stream, all right? So just if you're new to this channel, like Dom, hi, how are you? This is our stream of the week where we just cut loose and we be stupid. So as opposed to all our other ones
Yes.
where we be half stupid. This is our fun one. And yeah, we've been watching this trial for years, it seems.
Feels like it.
Feels like it, and we haven't even really watched the whole thing. We've just been skipping
No.
around, watching bits of it. And yeah, the prosecutor's a bit short, and we're trying to make him shorter.
And he gets very
so
short at times.
Sometimes he gets short. So, and he's actually dipped out for the closing arguments, which is a bit of a shame. So we have a bit of a game going on as well. Shrink the manlet. So there he is. He's a bit of a manlet. And yeah, if you want to donate to make the manlet shrink, that would be fantastic. There's instructions up in the pin to chat there. Hey, Rachel, how are you? Good to see ya. Rachel from Idaho. Scott, not you. It is you, Scott. Who else is here? Hey, Shammy. Good to see you, Shammy. Good to see you, mate. Alrighty, Sundays are chill. Yeah. We don't do Friday night fights, right? I did laugh when I saw the name of that stream. And I was like, oh, wow, this really is a Friday night fight. Okay, bye. Oh, dear. All in fun. Okay, so, yes, we're getting into it. Happy to hang out here, awake with food poisoning. Oh, you got food poisoning, Shammy. Oh, no. Ella and Dali are good company. Yes, we are. Oh, Mavka, you're late. Oh, no.
You're pregnant?
Oh, I hope you're not pregnant, Mavka. That's an old joke.
I still like it.
It is a good one, though. All right, let's get into it. Oh, I'm replacing that thing at the bottom with a new one.
Oh.
Wait. Let's make man, let's shrink. All donations greatly appreciated. He's already on a box.
Oh, he's got a little
And quite short. What happened?
Go back
I
like
missed it.
20, go back 15, 20 seconds when he gets his sippy cup.
Gets his sippy cup? Yeah. How embarrassing.
Oh my God, he has a drinking problem.
How embarrassing to have that happen on a live stream with thousands and thousands of people watching.
Of all the times he could do that.
Oh my God. Rupert's a beard that works.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're
That
already
was
through
great.
halfway through a long day, and I'm going to try to be as quick as I can. You've heard my partner, Mr. Ray, speak about a lot of facts in this case, but I want to speak to you now about the gravity of the situation. What we're hearing, what we're asking you to do, and why we're asking you to do it. You are a jury, and you're well aware of that. And I think Michael mentioned my books, and this is the book I got on my first day of law school. It's the Constitution of the United States of America. And there's an amendment, the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution, and it's been in place since 1789. And it is the Sixth Amendment. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. I think we've given them a public trial. By an impartial jury.
Listen, I don't know how to, on iPhone, you've got to go like into Safari and you've got to.
Nah, there is a link. I'm trying to see if I can find it.
Oh, okay. Dali's going to try and find it for you. Thank you so much, Dali. I appreciate the $4.99 super chat. Best I can do. You have an iPhone membership link. Thank you so much. Apple need to sort that garbage out. They really do. Appreciate you so much, Thomas.
Yeah.
And that means I'm going to make him shrink a little bit more. Yay! Oh, that link should work. Ooh, don't know.
I
We
think
can give
that's
that a
the one.
shot. But yeah. Alright, let's keep going. Thank you.
Of the state and district where the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and the cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, back then it would have been him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. That's it. That is the bedrock of what we're doing. And it has been here for a very, very long time. I told you back in jury selection that I was only looking for my client 12 fair, impartial jurors, honestly seeking the truth. And you all swore that that was you. And you have sat here very diligently, and you have paid attention and taken notes. And we've all noticed the effort and time that you've put into this. You have put in weeks of your life. You have missed time from your families, your jobs, to be here for this very, very heavy, important moment. And I also told you you had another job. And I don't have my PowerPoints. I go with literally what you guys are going to have to work with. This is the charge the judge is going to read to you once Ms. Frankish is finished speaking in this case. And your one job was to hold the state, and that's my job too, is to hold the state to their burden of proof. What is it? I'm just very clearly and succinctly going to read it to you, and then we'll talk about it. And I'm going to talk about some other elements of that I think we should discuss. And I'm going to sit down, and the defense of this case will be over. We're going to leave this to you, the jury. Who's the most important group of people here? And I want to know this. I've been meaning to tell you this for weeks, and I can't tell you this. My client, you may notice that she does everybody else in the courtroom. They rise for you. They rise for the jury. We don't.
Oh,
You're not.
what?
You are a jury of her peers. You're her peers. We're on the equal footing. The judge sits above us all, as he represents the law, and we are all under the law. So when the judge walks in, the bailiff says, "All rise," we rise for the judge as the representative of the law that we must live under. But our framers, who wrote this Constitution, and then, I had to go dig this up. We don't actually use these books much at the office, I'll admit that. The Constitution of the state of Georgia, which was actually adopted in 1983, so it's a much newer document.
Huh?
And it embodies the same
Private.
principles
Chat.
in our modern time. Now, some of them say 1983 is quite a long time ago, but not to me. It embodies it in our real time, in our real life to this day.
Okay.
Because our framers knew the government is, in fact,
It's a little glitchy, guys.
I'll run it for the time being.
I'll get Dali to fix it for a minute. I probably just got my daughter's home because it's a pupil-free day today, so she can have another 4-day weekend. So she's probably playing games on the internet. Hang on. So Dali can stream this. That's fine. There you go.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my lovely co-host.
Sure.
Sure. Is it working? I remember mine.
Oh.
I'll put yours.
There.
Sorry.
that's why we're here. That's why we're not part of Great Britain anymore.
So,
And almost every, even the modern democracies of Western Europe kind of think we're nuts. They think we're crazy. Because we have 12 people who have no association with the government. And to come in here and decide the facts of a criminal matter, to check the government, for that very reason. We left over there because we knew that the government should always be.
okay, I was just going to ask you to pause it, then I realized I was doing this.
Yes, you are.
The entire time we've been saying what an idiot he is for not rising for the jury.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't hate it now that he explains the problem. That's something he should explain in opening. not
It should
closing.
never have even been a thing.
Okay. But you don't go these 18 days of not standing up, of
Yeah.
them possibly worrying about or looking at you like you're an asshole,
Mm,
judging you, having a negative impression.
mm,
Even if you explain it and it makes perfect sense, they've
mm.
now looked at the entire evidence through that negative lens of you.
Yeah.
So I understand it's a good way, not a good idea, but a good way to bring in the whole court system and what it's about. It's just
It's
I
stupid.
disagree with what he's doing.
It's stupid. Whoever told him, whatever law professor or whatever, told him to not have your client rise for the jury like everybody else is an idiot, and he's an idiot for taking it on, and he's an idiot for telling his client that, and his client's an idiot for not telling him you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And the other attorney rose for the jury every single time, and he should have told his law partner, you're an idiot, and none of it should have ever happened. And then he's getting up in front of the jury and talking about it, because you know what? They never even noticed.
Hmm.
This is stupid.
Not just trusted implicitly, with power. So I just wanted to explain to you, my client is not being disrespectful. I told her to do that.
Ready?
Because I so believe that we are equals. We are peers.
Ready? Boom!
The burden of proof.
Ready?
The defendant,
Up
and still
and
is
down.
presumed innocent. In this case, he is
And
not
down.
over. The defendant is presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. The defendant enters upon the trial of this case with a presumption of innocence in his or her favor. The presumption remains with the defendant until it is overcome by the state with evidence that is sufficient to convince you beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant is guilty of the offense charged. 4 offenses in this case. No person shall be convicted of any crime unless and
It's so
until
little.
each element of each crime is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. You're going to get this down. This is the indictment. These are the charges. They have to every page of this indictment. Count 1, count 2, count 3, count 5. Every element, every word has to be proven in each count beyond a reasonable doubt. It can't just be maybe. I'm going to slow down. No person shall be convicted of any crime unless or until each element of the crime is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The burden of proof rests upon the state to prove every material allegation of the indictment and every essential element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. There is no burden of proof upon the defendant whatsoever, and the burden never shifts to the defendant to introduce evidence or to prove innocence. However, the state is not required to prove the guilt of the accused beyond all doubt, or to a mathematical certainty. A reasonable doubt means just what it says. So here it is. A reasonable doubt is a doubt of a fair-minded, impartial juror honestly seeking the truth. A reasonable doubt is a doubt based upon common sense and reason. It does not mean a vague or arbitrary doubt, but is a doubt for which a reason can be given arising from the consideration of the evidence, a lack of evidence, or a conflict of evidence. After giving consideration to all the facts and circumstances of this case, if your minds are wavering, unsettled, unsatisfied, then that is a doubt of the law. And you must acquit the defendant. It says the word must. But if that doubt does not exist, if your minds as to the guilt of the accused, then you would be authorized to convict the defendant. If the state fails to prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, it is your duty to acquit the defendant. You will be given this. You'll be given a verdict form with 5 counts. Count 1, malice murder. Count 2, felony murder. Count 3, aggravated assault. Count 4, concealing the death of another. And count 5, making a false statement. It is, in fact, a heavy burden. But I
I
continue.
don't get why there's 2 counts of murder.
The state
There's one
has
dude.
not come close. Mr. Ray is far more eloquent than me. Mr. Ray is far more intelligent than me, and his brain works in a way I truly am fortunate to have such a good partner. But he found that diagram years ago of the stairs. I've always used.
Mr. Ray is more intelligent than you?
A scintilla of evidence is down here. Probable cause or preponderance of the evidence is somewhere towards the middle of the bar. Clear and convincing evidence, which is not the standard in this case, is a little further up here. And then beyond a reasonable doubt, it's almost all the way here at the end of the bar. It's not all the way. I'm not saying it is.
It's up there.
But I think this case that we have set and listened to, and I think it is, the time was taken as needed to get through the case. For you to see every bit and every element of this case. But here's what I think you have clearly seen. And this is the first step that I propose to you. That the district attorney's office and the sheriff's office and all law enforcement involved in this case, from day one, from the early minutes of the 911 call, which let's think who made the 911 call. It was that man right there. He was in control from the very first minute of this case, Scott Farris. Scott Farris is always in control. And the fact that he had to immediately control the case, to me shows.
Oh, he's getting at the props, guys.
Yeah. And I do believe
Oh, this is great.
it is a heavy doubt. When you look
Heavy doubt.
everyone involved, every witness that you've heard testify. And that's another thing you need to know. You need to know that's your job, and you'll be charged on this as well. As a witness, you are to determine the credibility of the witness. Now, I'm going to read the charge. There's not a lot to this charge, and there's a reason why. The jury must determine the credibility of the witnesses. In deciding this, you may consider all of the facts and circumstances of the case, including the witness's manner of testifying, their means and opportunity of knowing the facts about which they testify, the nature of the facts about which they testify, the probability or improbability of their testimony, their interest or lack of interest in the outcome of the case, and their personal credibility as you observe it. What does that mean? Here's what that means. Here's what I propose to you. From the day we're born, in the early years of our lives, we begin to get a feeling when we hear people talk. Because the words coming out of our mouth sometimes aren't true. For example, if I were to have a bag, and say I told you that this bag was full instead of shoes, it was full of $1 million. Well, I'm going to take this half of this $1 million and give you guys the other half, and we're just going to leave. But here's what you know immediately. You know that if I had $1 million in this bag, I wouldn't be standing here talking to y'all. You know that. You have that feeling in your gut. Because you know, you've sat here and watched this case, it's a bag full of shoes. It's a bag full of shoes that has no important evidence on it whatsoever, other than the fact that I think Melanie Farris cut her finger at some point and got blood on her shoes and her shirt. I think they've established that. And I think, and Mr. Ray did a very eloquent job, and I can go on and on, and I'm not going to, because this case has got to come to an end. But when you think about law enforcement in this
He
case,
lost me just then.
and their response immediately, let's go back to July the 5th. Let's go back to the time that Scott Farris, who's sitting right there, goes up to Detective Kuykendall, who's sitting right there,
Kuykendall!
and he gets in his car for an hour and begins to tell him the story of the missing gun and his mother's affairs. And in opening statements, Mr. Fogus talked about circles. Circles getting big, smaller, smaller, smaller. And I think circles when we talk about too, when we talk about Miss Harris.
Did your mother ever tell you it's rude to point, sir?
And that's Scott Farris.
I can never not laugh at
The investigation
Detective
of this case
Kuykendall.
became one-sided in that first afternoon. And I would contend to you everything that happened, and it's unfortunate
And he's a skinhead, too.
for us in Cherokee County, for the jury, for Ms. Farris especially, that it was stuck that way. There was never any true
Quit
regard
fingering
or
her sunset.
respect for the evidence that should have been gathered in this case. You saw it. You had 1, 2, 3. 3 locations on this massive property. You've been there, you've seen it, that were not checked. All the countless problems that Mr. Ray unfortunately had to kind of wrap it up because we have time limitations on how we've been up here for weeks, we can't continue on. That's your job. You as a jury are allowed to go back to deliberate, and you get to go through every bit of this And there's going to be some of you that believe this, and there's going to be some of you that believe that. And the judge will tell you that you are allowed to hold on to those beliefs and stand up for those beliefs. It is that standard that gives you the true check on our government. You are the democracy. You are it. We're having an election in a week. Nobody's got to go vote. There is no draft anymore. Some people don't have to pay taxes. But the one thing you got to do, and y'all know it better than anybody, is when you are compelled into jury service, you have to come. We literally saw an individual brought in here during this trial who tried to get out of jury duty. You've seen it. This is the last duty we have. Because it's that.
Duty we have.
You can take any fact that we may have talked about, or even things we didn't talk about, and you argue about it back there. You're not saying, screaming and yelling.
Have my American
If you
accent
got a
going.
belief,
I'm an Aussie, mate.
you state it. And you listen to other jurors, and you make sure they listen to you. It's truly that important. But I would contend to you that the fact that
Oh yeah, it's next Saturday morning. Yeah.
Thrasher, who came out to the crime scene, and I believe she testified something to the fact that this was essentially the first crime scene she'd ever been on. She totally
Not me.
and completely failed in intaking the crime scene in the house. And that complete failure of that investigation alone, I think that's a doubt.
I think that's a doubt. That's a doubt. Go, 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 get the sacks. Oh,
I think
Made his intern go
further
buy those bags of sand.
into that day, and the fact that this investigation was completely veered in one direction, and that's the Melody Walker Farris. So much was left, and that's part of what you've seen in this case. We've been attempting to investigate this
Shut up,
case
man.
because we ultimately feel that it wasn't. We believe that the complete ignoring of the barn is absolutely, it's just despicable, for lack of a better word. And because they never even looked over there, they never even used Blue Star or Luminol or intook any of those things, even though there were some clear signs that they maybe should have. Gary Farris's card was over there. Scott Farris's bathtub was perfectly clean. They're there. I mean, Michael Ray told you. He told you. We had all those boxes that sit back there, and you know, y'all, I'm very analog. That's the way I am. So we had all these pictures, and I'm going through all these pictures for months and months and listening to all these interviews, and you guys have gone through most of those things. And sure, I got real frustrated one day. Michael's told the story, but I'm going to tell the story to you too. I think you need to know. So after going through this for weeks, preparing for this trial, hours on hours on hours, count hundreds and hundreds of hours preparing for this case, I finally threw up my hands. I mean, my paralegal will tell you. Sometimes I throw up my hands and I'm out. Michael said, "Where's John Lee?" I don't know. So I have to go pick up my family's prescriptions at our local drugstore, and I go over to the drugstore. And there is this little, she's young, I think she's 17 years old. She loves to read. But I walk in and they're redecorating the drugstore. This is a drugstore that's been owned by one family in our hometown for about 70 years, Jasper Drugstore. So I go in there, get my prescriptions, and she's like, "John, what's wrong?" So I tell her. No, oh, goodness. And she looks at me. 17 years old, redheaded too, unrelated. 17 years old, she looks at me and she says,
Easy, Kurt.
"You know, Mr. Mayor, sometimes the greatest questions, they don't want answered." I mean, literally. A ton of bricks. The second she
Another
said
one.
that to me, it finally cleared it up. Because I've been running around trying to solve this case for 4.5 years. That's how long I've been on it. Mr. Ray was on it longer than me.
Boom.
But because it
Second
is not answered, that's a doubt itself. I want to talk about a lot of the evidence that has been shown about phone calls and sexual relationships with Rusty Barton and the grotesque amount of time that was spent by the district attorney's office proving a point that was proven very quickly. And that's that my client had extramarital affairs. But also evidence was shown that so did Gary. And they were in an open relationship. They lived on separate parts of the house. And Amanda, I thought Amanda was a truly fascinating witness And it's kind of sad that we had to call her. I think she's the only child that is impartial. She literally just looked at you guys and said, this is y'all job. I believe in my mama unless or until she's proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think Amanda is such a credible witness because she also testified she was with her mama the day of the 4th. Nothing was out of place. And sure, they were texting and they were calling. And you see all this back and forth bickering all the time between them. And that's the Farris wheel. I mean, the moniker that has come to be in this case. And I know we are all sitting on top of the Farris wheel, and we just can't wait for that ride to let us all off. That's y'all's job.
Yes.
And we're going to get there. But all of the drama and all of the infighting between the siblings and the affairs and the relationships that have gone on. I mean, the affair started in the mid-2000s. You got Angela Phillips back in the 90s, who may or may not remember if she had sexual intercourse with Gary. All of that insanity. That's their life. But it's not a motive for murder. And that is what they have put and leaned so much of y'all's time into. Because they don't want you looking at this. They don't want you looking at what they didn't do to get to their burden. But let's go back to those phone calls the night before. Let's go back to the timeline. There's something that's absolutely bizarre to me. We did not find out until, I think it was last Friday, when Commander Harris testified. Gary Farris went to dinner, we think, by himself, the night he was murdered. We don't know. We'll never know. He was at least alive until 9:30 or something. When we see the dot moving, if the science is true. But sure enough, he went to dinner. They never thought to go get a video of that. Let's go up there, interview somebody. Maybe he was with somebody at dinner. We'll never know. I'm not saying that breaks open the case. But I continue with that huge glaring hole in the timeline right there. I'd say that's a doubt.
Look, at this point, Gary's more animated than Manuel. Hey! Boom!
I feel bad for whoever's the intern he gets from his local law school. Because you just know that poor guy is the one carrying all that sand around.
Oh, yeah.
Every trial, he has to lug it in there.
Every trial. It's like, okay, you're not going to do the sand thing again, are you?
Yeah.
Really?
Can you do something else?
Yeah.
Scott had been out at the lake all day. Golfing, laking.
Laptop screen. Not guilty.
Micah, you're right, because I've already been through an hour or something with the other defense attorney who was so boring as hell we had to stop the stream last time, right? And now we've got this dude, and like he's a lot more animated. If it was only him, if they've only had to sit through him, okay, but he is going off on tangents. All he really has to talk about is the fact that how did a woman this big manage to get Gary to the burn pile? Why is there no forensic evidence around to show how that happened? And also, like, why were the two children there and they can recall nothing? Why did she have no problem with them being there? Scott was around. He could have done it. There's plenty of motive and opportunity for him to do it too. You haven't proven it beyond a reasonable doubt. You just haven't proven it beyond a reasonable doubt. So, yeah.
So, okay, I'm guessing the laptop is plugged into the court projection so the jury can see the court monitor. So he's just got on his laptop a big not guilty
What?
for the jury to see. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's just flashing there for the jury to see as he talks.
You reckon that's on the screen at the same time as he's talking?
Yeah. He's probably just using a PowerPoint like that just to keep not guilty up there for quite a while.
I don't know if it's showing right now. Like it might be ready to show.
No, they're linked. What you see, at least from what I've seen before, it flashes on all the computers there, like on the states table. So when you project something,
Yeah.
everyone can see what you're projecting. So you're not like playing some sneaky game.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that the laptop is seeing what is being shown to the jury.
Mind control. I wouldn't like that if I was one of the jurors. I'd just be like, what's that got to... You're saying something and that's flashing at me. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
You think we're idiots? Like we are, but...
Golfing,
Yeah.
Laking. And there was a lot of testimony heard about that and the life and the dynamic that he had on the farm. He referred to the farm as his. He referred to the farm as his property, it was his possession. I mean, his sister even called it kind of comical.
My precious.
But you saw, and we'll get to go back through, any of those you want to go back through and see the communications between Scott and his father. What really was happening was that Scott was a grown man who had every second. So whatever they're saying about Melody has to at least apply to Scott. He was completely controlled by his father, financially. Bring me back that credit card. Where's my credit card? It better be in my wallet when I get back. Over and over and over. It's in the messages. You've seen it. You can go see it again. So that financial motive alone, that control, wanting something that's not his, I think that's a doubt.
Here we go. Oh, what? There's a doubt. Go get the sack.
See, told you. It's up on the screen.
Oh, look, it is too.
Yep.
Huh. God, you could have gone to a bit more effort, guys.
I know. I would have made it a bit bigger, but that's just me. Maybe just not guilty each word on a single line.
Oh, right, yeah.
Feels like Trina made this PowerPoint.
Mm.
At least he's using PowerPoint better than Trina.
Zach Gallery, how's it going?
Hey,
That could be full of kitty litter.
used
You
kitty
will
litter.
have seen from
States
Commander
litter
Harris
cases. Case.
something
States case.
regarding activity in phone calls. But I think that you guys have enough common sense to know, and this is just some things we saw, that other days and other times you went back and extrapolated out over a year, sometime back in 2017, and we clearly saw that there was more activity the night before a baby shower in Nashville than would be alleged for Melody to have shot, killed, moved, and burned Gary Farris. This is no easy task. That's a doubt.
Isn't that? Oh, he's going for it now. It's just sack after sack after sack. He loves his sacks.
And by showing the jury is sack.
Hmm.
I want to seem like grab his groin
All
and
of
hernia.
the weapons that could
He
have
has to
been
lay
used
down on the ground. Oh, hernia popped out.
in this
Sorry.
case, all of the bullets, the means, the ability, they start talking about the circles. They start zooming on one person. And it's not Melody Farris. It's Scott Farris. He's sitting here today. All of it. But I think it starts to become clear why I'm doing this. Why am I dropping these bags? These bags are 40 pounds apiece. I've got a few more bags to go.
Oh, you got
But I
more to
want you to
go.
know that it starts to become very impossible when you add this up. As someone who weighs 120
Oh, go, go.
pounds can move
Boom.
this. That is a doubt in its own right. But there was a person on the property who could. And that's Scott Farris. He's sitting there. today.
Get Scott to help. That'd be more dramatic. Scott would be like, "It's okay, I can do it." He just like toddles off with all of them.
Are you going to keep consistent about the place?
I think he's going to, Shammy.
No.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is what's going to happen. Right? Right, so yeah, sacks into sacks. Rejection. Manlet. I couldn't do this, so he shouldn't be allowed to do it. Demonstration of manliness. Best chorus turned up.
There's 2 interns in the male. Like, I'm sorry, it's quality. You can do it.
This is great. Hey, Christine, love. Hope you're feeling better, sweet.
This is 320
I
pounds.
should have done this with Zach.
I'm 185 pounds. And that's all I have. I think it is
Oh,
the heaviest down of all.
I thought I was kidding about
But they
the
have
hernia.
provided you with no means, plan that this could have ever happened by Melanie. They have established there was tractors on the property and RTVs. But as my client, or as my partner very clearly laid out to you, I'm sorry.
Oh,
As my partner very clearly laid out to you. They didn't do their job. They've provided no way that you could have done this. They didn't check the boxes. They didn't fill any holes of doubt. The state of Georgia has put my client under grave suspicion. That is exactly what they have done. They have put on her grave suspicion, the most grave suspicion of all, and that is murder. But the doubt, I contend to you, absolutely exists. I'm sorry I had to do this demonstration, but they didn't. They didn't show you
He's
what
apologizing to
300
his
pounds
back.
truly feels like. I'm not saying I'm the strongest person in the world, but that is as heavy of a thing as a person can move. And I'm almost a 200-pound man. No explanation has been given. And I keep bringing this back because the grave suspicion that they put on her, these affairs, calling Rusty, all of these things. And I want to note about Rusty as well. Let's note a few things. And I know you've listened to it and you saw it. Pope, he threatened to arrest him. He threatened his own warrants against him, the death penalty. Bugged my client for over a year. No confessions. Her own daughter has lived with her for years and years and years. No confessions. Now I want you to know this too, and it's a charge that the judge will give you.
Yeah, he should have
My
said that.
client does not have to testify. She didn't. She chose not to testify. And we talked about this in jury selection, that you wouldn't hold it against her, but the law is clear. The defendant in a criminal case may take the stand and testify and be examined and cross-examined as any other witness. However, the defendant does not have to present any evidence nor testify. If the defendant chooses not to testify, you may not consider that in any way in making your decision. Because again, the burden never shifts to us in the defense. I feel like there's been so much time that we felt like we're trying. I'm trying to get you to see the side of the story that was never investigated. I feel like we've been able to do that, but we didn't have to do that. This decision, in this case, is everything. for Melody. Melody has had to live under this grave suspicion for 6 years. But now is the time that 12 fair and impartial jurors, a jury of her peers, can finally give us answers. I'm not saying that you guys can ever answer what happened that night. The greatest questions, I do believe, they really do go unanswered. And in this case, and it may be some of you as it was me that day. Very frustrating. You want to figure out what happened. But it's okay to know that you can't. And I contend to you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that because you can't explain what happened that night, they have not proven this case beyond a reasonable doubt. And I ask you to please hold to your oath and find my client, Melody Walker Farris, not guilty. Thank you for your time.
Yay! Good ending.
All right, we're going to break for about 30 minutes.
Okay, let's start off a bit weak.
Before
but
Gary Farris's
we got
murder.
there.
They want you to think that's a coincidence? Man, they're in for it because there's a long list of coincidences if that's the game they're playing. If that's what they're trying to get at. Not only that, but she just so happened to be taking care of a woman who owned a .38 snub-nosed revolver in a leather holster that her son saw in the basement of her home. Another coincidence? No, ladies and gentlemen, that's called
Was
evidence.
accused.
They want you to think there's an individual, innocent, reasonable explanation for all of the incriminating evidence against her. That's a giant
Can you get
conspiracy.
the captions off her face, please?
That the gunshot wounds didn't kill him?
Like,
Use your common sense and reason. Now let's briefly talk about Scott, then we're going to get into the evidence that incriminates Melody Farris. When you think about Scott Farris, think about the manner in which he testified. Think about how he was corroborated, not only by the witnesses in this case, but the digital evidence. The digital evidence proves he was truthful about everything he did that week.
he was
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And he's corroborated by Martha Barton because you know what? He didn't know that Martha Barton had a gun, a .38 snub-nosed revolver in a leather holster. And a huge piece of evidence. He knew Melody the best. He knew his parents. He knew their dynamic. He knew that. Melody never had a credit card. He knew that Melody was angry. He was there when she slammed that plate down and said, God, I can't wait till the day he's dead. He saw that. The day before his father was murdered. He knew that Melody despised Gary. And he would get caught in the middle. He just wanted to bury his head in the sand and be like, let me do my work. Keep me out of the marriage problems. But the second he knew his father was in that burn pile, they want to get on him for taking charge. You know what he learned in the military? To take charge.
the military.
To take action. That's all he knew. That was ingrained in his mind.
The dude was a bum.
We need to get the girls out of here so they're not traumatized for the rest of their lives. And we need to get to the bottom of this and get to the truth.
I love the way she's. Can you pause it for a
Talk about
second?
lack of motive for Scott. He was
I love the way she's making out like he was just some sort of hero in the whole situation, and everything he said was corroborated, and just like what a dude when he was like suspect number one for years,
Yeah.
right? Like they were investigating him for several years, right?
Yep.
Am I still here? Because I think I lost my internet.
No, you're here.
Okay.
completely wrong.
Yeah, they were investigating him for several years, so they didn't think that of him at all. Like they think of that of him now because they're trying to deflect attention away from him for the jury. But it came out right in front of the jurors that that's not what they thought of him at all.
Mm-mm.
So this just comes off completely disingenuous. This whole, Scott was wanting to get to the truth and Scott was completely truthful and Scott was just wanting to get on with his work. It also came out that he was a complete bum and he wasn't doing his work around the place, and then he actually left the animals hungry afterwards.
Hmm.
This is bullshit. Sorry, keep going.
Relied. He completely relied on his father for everything. His livelihood, the place he lived, the money.
Yeah,
Why would
Bob.
he take that away? He would have nothing left. Melody would kick him out immediately. He also knew, forgot to mention, Melody disappeared every week to go see Rusty. He knew that. One of her motives. And he didn't have access to a .38 revolver or own one. Think about this. Scott committed this crime. There's no way she wouldn't know about it. She was home the whole time. Law enforcement didn't blue star the barn because nobody saw blood in the barn. They blue starred where there was physical blood. No blood found in the
Expired
barn.
blue star.
They didn't have to. The bullet was in the house. Gary was on the burn pile.
What happens when you leave a plate? Forget to take it upstairs. A minor temper tantrum. Of course, I had supper tonight, and it was 6 for me, so I'm sure I'll be feeling poorly here in minutes. But we'll see.
There was testimony about Gary talking about Melody poisoning him. We didn't admit that or get that in evidence because we think he was poisoned. That shows his state of mind. That shows he knew Melody would kill him if it came down to it. She's the only one that would have. And he knew she wanted him dead. She's clearly poisoning me. Supper was fixed for me. I'm probably gonna feel bad. And that was after her slamming that plate down on the ground in frustration because he left a dirty plate in the theater or his bedroom or wherever. It's not normal behavior. That corroborated Scott. So this might be because I'm a millennial, but I always read that first.
It's not normal behavior to be upset at a partner for leaving a dirty plate somewhere. Really? Okay.
Line as, do you have my credit card? Because my phone always fixes due to so, and it just irritates
Has
me.
she ever been
But
in a
probably would.
relationship?
Gary to Scott, do you have my credit card? So you have my credit card.
Pregnant.
Choose one.
So that's amazing.
Yes. Hang on to it as if your life depended on it. Is that what you tell someone who you want to cut off? No. That's what you tell someone you trust to keep the credit card away from her. He relied on Scott. Probably a little too much for this dynamic for him, between him and Melody. Probably shouldn't have gotten Scott involved, but here he is. He lives on the property. It's natural. He says, okay, and then he says, she makes me go shopping with her because she keeps saying the other card is turned off, her debit card. The girlfriend of her boyfriend, Rusty Barton, sent me several disturbing emails last night. This is in October 2017. She is spending a dime of my money. Either she is spending every dime of my money or she won't spend every, I don't know. Something about spending his money. Things will change dramatically. You need to pursue a job soon. He's not telling Scott to pursue a job because he wants him off the property. He's telling Scott to pursue a job because something's about to go down. He's about to leave her. He's had it. But this was almost a year before his death. Melody wanted everyone to believe after Gary was murdered that Scott was some big, scary dude that everyone should be afraid of because he's got PTSD or whatever. He's just a big guy, so you should fear him. She even had a man and child change locks on that house. But if you go through these text messages, which is Farris 5, State's Exhibit, all their text messages post-offense when they were living on the property together. You know what she did? She relied on Scott. She left him keys under the rug to get into the house, but then turned around and told people he stole stuff out of the house. That's not two-faced. That's not malicious. I don't know what is. That's your own son.
I hate you, prosecutor. You're just
You don't
making
leave the
shit
key
up.
under a rug for someone you think wants to kill you or frame you. Or someone you think killed your husband.
It's her son.
One more thing about Scott. Mr. Fogus mentioned the oath we take as prosecutors
This is a
is our duty
veracity.
to uphold the law without fear, favor, or affection.
Yeah.
There is no evidence that points to Scott in this case.
What?
You don't think if there was evidence
The cops didn't
Scott
think
did
of it
something in this
for
case,
years.
that he wouldn't be sitting at that table with Melody? Sure, make our job easier. I'm not going to indict someone where there's no evidence he committed a crime.
Do that every day, princess.
Let's talk about a little about the Farris family history. In the beginning of this trial, y'all probably were wondering why we walk through every child's history and experience growing up in all these different houses and states and what their dad was like when they were younger, what their mom was like when they were younger. Then you realized how far back and how deep this goes.
Yep. This is so dumb.
This is not a simple family. This is not a simple case. But in order to
pretty
fully
simple to
understand
find
the
it off
dynamics of this
Wiki,
family,
actually.
you had to hear all of that history. You know that this is from Emily's wedding. I want to talk about a little bit of build-up to the day of July 3rd, 2018. You've got Ted Wiley, that affair, about 8 years before Gary's death. That changed the dynamic of Gary and Melody's relationship greatly. He totally took her off the finances. He was like, you want to take out all the money I had set aside for taxes? Great, I'm going to take you off all the accounts. You want to come back and try to work this out? Come home, leave Ted, who, by the way, was dating Gary's sister for like 20 years before she decided to hook up with him. 2010, he dismissed the divorce that he filed. Martha Jane had her surgery in 2014. Okay, the kid said that things seemed fine between 2010 and 2014. Seemed fine. Martha Jane had her surgery, and that's when the affair begins with Rusty Barton. Emily's wedding was 2 years later. She flaunted that relationship in front of people that night. She didn't care. She had no
flaunted
concern
their
about that
relationship
whatsoever.
that night.
And Gary had to pretend like it didn't bother him that night because his daughter was getting married. It was supposed to be the best night of her life, but you know who couldn't help but make it about her? Melody Farris. Chris testified that Gary was so upset. He said, that's the last time Melody's gonna embarrass me. Then you have in 2016, Martha tells Melody about the location of her revolver. You also have in 2016, Melody telling Gary, I hope you die alone and a gruesome death. And remember, Terry Braswell, this was Terry Braswell's phone, and he had her burner phone number. This was a phone she thought nobody would ever see the inside of. She's not saying that type of stuff on her 9029 number. And then Terry says, he's gonna push you over the edge, and she says, I know, and that scares me. I told him finally to go where could not even see or hear him. It would be in his best interest. She knew she had no self-control. She hated him that much.
Right.
September 2017, she gallivants out to Jamaica with Rusty.
To heal.
Meanwhile, she sends her debit card through the mail to Sherry Cooper to run it in Minnesota because she told everybody she was in Minnesota. Poor Sherry, she had some guilt about that. She's like, I don't know why I did that. That was stupid. Don't forget, Melody betrays every person and uses every person close to her for her own benefit. You saw, and I've already mentioned this, you saw Amanda's reaction to those text messages. Oof.
Oof.
She did not like being used like that. Aaron receives an email from Christina Bennett. Just FYI, your wife and Rusty Barton have been lovers for 3 years. I'll give it. Oh, that's blank out. Instagram's email, sorry. I'll give it to her. She's the only one who's bringing this to light. Everyone else sweeping it on the rug. Christine was like, nah, y'all ain't gonna get away with this.
God, I'd hate to be in a relationship with this woman.
Oh. Okay. Guys, sorry, is it paused? There we go.
Oh, I think we're both
Just
adding
changing
at
over
this
to
stage.
mine.
I'll give it to her. She's the only one who's bringing this to light. Everyone else sweeping it under the rug. Christine was like, nah, y'all ain't gonna get away with this.
Sorry. My internet's fixed now, I think.
Okay.
That's when Gary texts Scott about the credit card. Hang on to it as if your life depended on it. March 2018, Gary sends Melody this text message. Your profligate spending must stop. He says in the middle there, between you, Chris, and Scott, I can't keep up. You treat me like I don't exist, which is offensive, typo, my typo, given how you repeatedly betray me.
This is so irrelevant. None of this means that anyone's going to murder anybody.
Gary's in the hospital in April of 2018. Meanwhile, she's telling Rusty Barton he has like esophageal cancer and he's spitting up blood and he's on his deathbed. Even Chris said she made it sound like he was bad. And then he shows up to the hospital and Gary's like, what's that look on your face for? He's like, I thought you were like real bad. And he was fine.
He was just in the
He
hospital.
walked out of the hospital, went back to his Mountain Dew.
Went back to his Mountain Dew.
And that's when he tells Chris, you know, I think Melody's poisoning me. Again, that goes to his state of mind. This was all amping up. He knew something was off. June was a big month, 2018. June 6th, DirecTV comes to the house, and yes, please look at those chats, because Gary says, hey, come to the house real quick. I need to show you the issue.
It was a
so
big
you
month.
know what issues
DirecTV
make
came
you
out
angry.
to hook up our cable. I thought you guys
That's-
weren't rednecks.
When DirecTV comes, that's when Scott sees that as well. Again, this corroborates Scott. He could have said, I don't know where I saw that gun. I don't know. He knew when he saw it. He was like, actually, I was looking for a remote, which makes perfect sense. He's looking in drawers for the remote to figure out the TV guy. That's completely reasonable and natural. He's opening drawers and he's like, oh, that's weird. A gun, it's just like the one Martha Barton described. June 25th.
Why don't you go ahead and start talking
Rusty
about the
searches
special
his
they
phone,
got?
Plain gold wedding band. And you'll see text messages from Melody and him.
Right, June?
Plain gold wedding band, that was their
Right,
thing.
Junior?
And then Gary's birthday, Jenna sees a revolver. Jenna has no dog in this fight. Her and Chris aren't even together anymore. They don't talk.
Hey, Justin.
She has no dog in this fight. She didn't want to be here.
I don't know how you
Talking about
bought this, Justin. This is so stupid.
No motive to lie.
This is like a soap opera,
Now,
Justin.
June 28th, Melody learns about the beach trip, which is supposed to be that Saturday. That's also not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence. I don't really know, to be honest, but I don't think they proved it.
To Emily.
I don't see how you can think
These are
that
two separate
they proved
messages
it.
she sent
I
to two
didn't.
separate people expressing how angry she was that Gary got a condo for Chris and Jenna. Not a reasonable reaction. She was over it. I'm taking measures to stop this insanity. No one thought these would be the measures. But here we are. Because the next day, Gary's murdered. Again, not another coincidence. Let's talk about her motive.
A coincidence.
That first text message, I was shocked when Sherry told me you had a boyfriend, but don't blame me. From Terry Braswell to Melody. Plain gold wedding band. That's when he searches on his phone. Rusty does. This note, Crown XO, March 31st, 2014. She made a note on her phone about Rusty's favorite drink.
Oh, I didn't speak this up.
So we know that corroborates the timeline of their relationship. And then these messages on the side here from August 4th and 5th, that's between her and Rusty. That's a month after her husband was found murdered and burned on a burn pit on her own property, who she claims that her son killed. Meanwhile, she's over here forever. We need us. I need you. All.
I need you all. All.
You don't get more than that.
Sounds like she's faking it.
Except she had more. All right. This is all the money she would get if Gary died accidentally. Add all those up. Okay, $4.15 million. Now, the defense wants you to believe she didn't know about it. You know what you know? You know she goes in his phone when he's not around. You know she cleans that house. You know she's not stupid. She knew about his profit sharing. She called the office and asked about it. She knows where that money goes. She, again, consider the source. She is going around pretending like she's asking Emily, what am I going to do? What am I going to do if something happens to your dad? They're the ones that stood up here that said his money is her money. We all know that's true when you're married. So you're going to go to her or the kids. Probably all four. Naturally, without a will, the house was hers. You cannot tell me she thought she was going to be broke. It's ridiculous. Afterwards, it was always about money. Melody was demanding money. She was trying to get as much money as possible. She didn't think that when he was found dead, all the finances would be frozen. She didn't think they found a bullet in his rib either. I was terrified I would be broke. Man, your husband's a millionaire. And here we have it. The condo. This pays $55,000. Did you talk to Chris about this beach trip? What beach trip? He wants to take girls down there the weekend after the court. Let him take them. I haven't gotten past him.
I don't see how this is a rebuttal. This is just a second closing argument.
Again, was when they put me in a box on the ground. Or they continue to take money every month, of which you do nothing about. She's blaming Gary for that. There is something terribly wrong with not being able to take a beach trip with the grandkids without so much drama. I guess such a trip is not exciting enough for someone like you. And he knew his wife, didn't he?
How is this proof of murder?
She went to Hito. Guilty.
She went to Hito. Yes, she did. She went to Hito.
I got Gary's phone. He booked and paid for the condo for Chris and Jenna. I'm beyond curious. Amanda, oh, big surprise. Right, always there in the corner. I had to put times on this one because this is ridiculous. Melody, did you book a condo for Chris and Jenna?
You know what I think might be
Trying to
fun?
Trap him? It's your husband. Be like, hey, I got your phone, so you booked this condo.
Let's have a look at the live
You wanna
chat that
talk to me
happened
about
at the
that?
same
Actually, he
time.
did talk to you about it. He invited you on a trip. You said no.
Can we? Yes.
I booked one from you as well. That's how manipulative and conniving
This
she
lawyer
is.
is that girl. I have so much admiration and
Remember,
respect
in
for
Lindsay Harris'
her.
presentation, you saw the group chat among Amanda, Gary, and Melody about she was making a photography appointment. Amanda, she invited both her parents, and Gary said, "I'm going to the beach." Melody chats her on the side. This is your time to ask him. Thanks for the invite. Manipulation, conniving, deceit. That's what she's about.
Rusty McCrusty and miscreant Melody are two going
These
down. They are
The top right will break.
despicable.
Melody to Emily, I have had it. I'm taking measures to stop this insanity. This was July 2nd. That's her message to Amanda Farris. This is the last straw with him. All right. I want to get into the timeline of events. These phone calls, these are all the phone calls that she had with Rusty on the 3rd in the evening. I didn't go before that. We know Chris and Addison stopped by the house in the evening. We know Gary went out to eat and came home around 9:30. And don't forget John Lambert heard gunshots between 9 and 10 p.m. that night.
Yeah, she's not rebutting anything.
They
This is
talk.
just a whole second Closing
for
time
an hour and
viewing.
14 minutes at 11:45 p.m. But they talked for 5 minutes.
This is
at
very
11:28.
mindful and demure
Call in
closing.
between that is the one to Scott, 11:34. When Scott calls when he gets back home, because she has to tell Scott to come home. She calls him and she's like, "What time are you gonna be home? The horses got out." And I want you to think about this. In her statements to Detective Hayes and Detective Kuykendall, she talks about these horses getting out. I think it starts like before dinner, and then it starts with like one horse, right? And then for some reason she's still chasing horses 3 hours later. But then it goes to two horses, and then she's like, "Oh, but then the third one got out after that." Inconsistent. You weren't chasing horses. You were murdering your husband. She had to call Scott because she didn't know what time he'd be home. She had to call Scott to see what time he'd be home. Because then, when she says, "Well, the horses got out," and he's like, "Okay, I'm coming home," she's like, "Well, I got him put up." Okay, then why are you calling? It doesn't make sense. The horses are a cover up.
Of course, it's a cover up.
But she calls Scott. Scott's all the way up there at the lake. She calls him at 10:52. What time are you home? All those calls with Rusty in between.
Look at this. Hang on. Right. I was watching over on Law and Crime. I am shocked at how many still think on the side of innocence.
I want to talk about this notification. At 12:24 a.m., the morning of the 4th, so the night of the 3rd, the night Gary is killed, she uses her debit card to purchase minutes on Straight Talk. Y'all heard a lot of testimonies. 1, about how she has a credit card. 2, about how Gary would get financial alerts for all of her purchases. Lindsay testified, Ms. Harris, testified. This was the only alert that popped up in his email, his phone, for Straight Talk. That's not a coincidence. She knew Gary was dead. So using her debit card to blast that she has a Straight Talk phone, not a problem.
She said, Gary's in the burn pile. No, she said, he is in the burn pile. And I said, what? And she said, he's in the burn pile. And I said, do not say another word and do not tell me anything. I do not need to know.
Oh, look at the way she shakes her head.
That's what that 220 call was about. Now, again, believe what you want about Rusty. We all know he knew more than he came in here and told you. We all know that. We're not stupid. They talked for an hour and 35 minutes at 11 whatever, and then another 35 minutes at 2:20 a.m. But that's all he was willing to give. But that's enough. And you know that that's how it happened because he gave you the context and he told you when that call happened. Mr. Ray talked about Detective Botthong using this open source document or program for the CPAP machine. All right, the date is the 3rd. It ends at 7:48 a.m. That's the last data for that CPAP machine for Gary Farris on sleep. Now, you got the raw reference too. Look at that. Oh, 7:48 a.m. It's the same. The data, the raw data, shows he never, ever went to sleep the night of the 3rd. Now, I want to talk about this map. All right.
Ooh, photos.
All right, see where that dot is? And that's Gary's phone. The morning of the 4th at 6:37 a.m. till 7:21 a.m. Right there at that burn pile. We know Gary's dead. And we know it goes from the house to the burn pile. You'll have that with you in the jury room. And then it goes back to the house. 7:58, 8:21, 9:05, back to the house. She's on the phone with Rusty all morning. And you know Scott's location during this time, it's in here. He left for the lake. He was 20 minutes away. The only one home was Melody. That phone was either on Melody or on Gary's dead body. But you know who wasn't there? Scott.
Oh.
And Melody was by herself. You know, Rusty,
How long?
she's on the phone with him the whole time. Well, and you heard testimony that he was actually in Tennessee, but also. We know what time she left for Dali. She left 12:47 p.m. She puts that location Amanda sensor into her maps and heads out to the lake. Now, the thing about Dr. Pope's testimony in that 24-hour window, she said that was dependent upon the fuel. And you heard testimony that burn pile was huge. You know what she did? She lit that burn pile and she left.
I'm so confused. But Scott was there at a time when it could have happened. They're so bogged down in their timeline of when they think that it happens, right? But they don't know for sure. And Scott was there then, right? Just because Scott left for a bit doesn't mean that Scott couldn't have done it. He could have.
Yeah.
Who's to say he couldn't have left the property whilst the body was burning? He could have.
Yeah.
You think he's just going to stay on the property the entire time? He could leave. This is so stupid. Also, I have an image of Gary standing at the fire. Melody knows this is the moment, and he shot into the fire. I think she rode down on the Kubota with Gary to the burn pile, shot him, shoved what she could in the burn pile, and began clean up once she got the pile blazing.
Maybe Gary just spilled something on himself and she was trying to get him to dry off.
How'd the bullet get involved?
I don't know. I was just making fun of the judge again.
Oh, right. Okay. You shouldn't have to work it out so much.
My joke or the murder?
Oh, that too. Yeah.
My bad joke.
The 3 calls with Rusty Barton the evening of the 3rd and the morning of the 4th total more than the other 15 calls that they've ever had between those hours. Again, that's not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence.
She was freaking out because she just killed her husband and had to figure out what to do with him.
Freaking out.
You know who she turned to? Rusty. What do I do? Yeah, I'm going to talk about her activity. The 3rd, the 7th, September 7th, 2017, September 30th, 2017, and the 3rd, July 3rd, 2018. Those are the 3 days she had the most activity between. This is a 1-hour period, 1 hour, from 11 p.m. to midnight, okay? Now, we talked about Jamaica, the one on the 7th, that was probably a David Dunn, okay? All right, fine, get rid of it.
Yeah.
2.
What's going on with
The
the
2 most active nights she has ever had in a year. Her gallivanting about Broadway when she's out in Nashville, the Chattanooga.
Gallivanting.
I
then
think she was
murdered
pretty
her husband.
active when she went
That
to
tracks.
Hito, ma'am.
That makes sense. That's reasonable.
How dare she gallivant? It's the kind of thing you say about a teenager out
This
gallivanting.
is also not a coincidence.
Probably came home. I wonder if she was arrested and got a mugshot in the same shirt Rakeda was wearing from Hito. That was a shirt he got in Hito, by the way.
What was it?
Yeah. His mugshot photo.
Here's a Hito shirt.
When we talk about
Yeah, you
money,
had to buy a
you know
shirt
Melody didn't
here.
have a credit card. The only card she had was a debit card. And that card is the one that ended in 0078. The one Scott used at that ATM that morning that he got from the house and brought back. Okay, there's that ATM withdrawal. That's the one he brought back to your mom. Even Melody says about Scott. And he has a credit card. I don't even have that.
Gallivanting.
You know that.
Can't get over the fact she said she was gallivanting. She's a grown woman. She can do what she wants.
She was very nonchalant about it.
That
So
card
nonchalant.
ending in 1727. That's the card Gary got mailed to his office less than a month before his murder. That was a new credit card. That's his office address and that Bank of America activity alert. And that's her transaction at Walmart, the morning of July 5th, before Gary's remains were discovered. Oh yeah, by the way, the trip to Walmart that she doesn't mention to police ever, that she says she's literally interviewed on the 5th and on the 6th. Leaves it out, says she's just, I don't know, cleaning up after girls.
Well, she's
Lays
a
in
Target
bed.
gal. She don't want to admit it.
Why don't you talk about this trip to Walmart? Look, she even activated a phone card. What was so important? You had to run out to Walmart that morning. Could it be to restock on cleaning supplies?
Nonchalant gallivanting.
Or because you spent $450 on a credit card that you didn't have until you took it out of your dead husband's wallet. Both. She didn't wash those towels. She didn't Clorox that floor. She bought a lot of soap, a lot of bleach. And we know it was her. She bought wine and showed her ID.
I love a bit of nonchalant gallivanting. I might do some
Let's
later.
talk about the truth of July 5th, 2018. Melody is actually the one who pointed out Gary's remains to Scott. And yet she's letting everybody gallivant around and saying, Scott found him, Scott found him. That's not true. And she knows it. She's the one who told police also that corroborated Scott. I said, hey, keep that open fire. That was her pointing out the remains to Scott. Because if you don't have a body, you don't get the money. She didn't have them found.
You sound like an expert.
Melody actually knew the night before that the girls couldn't find him. Madison said that.
Nonchalant gallivanting.
She wasn't concerned. And yet she pretends like the morning of the day she didn't know he was missing. Melody only started looking when Amanda got there. She was sitting on the stoop, just like, hey, yeah, they can't find Gary. Okay, well, how long have you known about this? Actually, since last night. Well, that would be the wrong answer. That would make her suspicious. And when Amanda described the events on the 5th, boy, were those vastly different from everybody else's. Think about it.
Jesus Christ.
And what got me was she was like, nobody asked me. Weren't you told not to talk to the police? You were the one who didn't want to tell what happened. So then you lived with your mom for 2 years and decided to tell what happened, and by then, you've been completely tainted.
Tainted! Tainted that in the chat.
Scott testified he went to Philip and CPAP and the gun that he used for duck hunting to see if maybe he got duck hunting. All those comments on a missing gun are not true. He didn't mention that until after he went in the basement. Thought to look for that 38, saw it was gone. Then he came up and was like, oh, yeah, by the way,
Oh, sorry. I got excited.
38's missing. He didn't mention a missing gun before that. Think about the source of all that information. That's Melody being vindictive and planting thoughts in her daughter's head. On the 5th, when you go back and you hear Melody's statements, on the 5th, man, she tried everything. Scott's health issues, suicide, Chris steals money. Here's the thing. Here's how it went down, okay? I have a picture of an octopus up there. Do you know what an octopus does when it feels threatened? It squirts ink in the water.
Right, Chinny, I'm thinking about just like skipping to the end.
The
Not
closer
saying
she
anything.
felt like she was getting into trouble, the more she felt threatened. She started spewing all this ink about her kids. She even talked about Chris Payne. He wasn't even in the state. I mean,
Could she be more
she
boring than the first
does not
first
care who
defense
she throws
attorney?
under the bus to save herself. It is actually insane.
It's actually insane.
And it's such a reach. Scott likes to shoot guns. Okay,
Hey, Indy Cindy. How's it
Chris
going?
takes money. Okay, well, he was in Buckhead, so this is going nowhere. And then the suicide. It's funny because she says, no, he wasn't suicidal. And then when she feels threatened, she's like, oh, well, yeah, no, he used to be suicidal before he got married. Once she realized that the jig was up, ooh, she was frantic. The only person she didn't throw under the bus was Amanda. Because she'll need one child to support her. She just needs one. It's all about what she wants, what she needs. It's not about anyone else.
How much longer does she go on?
She prided herself on her house and her things.
Uh-oh.
She liked her things. She wanted to keep her house immaculate. She's not about that. She decorated it to a T. Not my style, but, each their own. And yet, it was pretty dirty on the 5th. Let's talk about the blood. Don't forget that Deputy Riley walked in that house and there was a candle burning by the basement door.
It goes on for another 2 minutes or so.
And it smelled.
Should we let it go on?
We've got Gary's blood right there on that basement floor.
Oh, please.
There's
You've got
possibility.
one drop of it.
These are all different sources of different things. That's not reasonable. We've got a blood trail. And it goes from the top of those basement stairs, where that attempted cleanup is, down the stairs, into the basement.
They've You
Yeah,
do
and
not have
probably
enough blood to prove
swash
anything to
that-
do with this
those
murder.
two, right there on the left.
Come
That's
on.
what.
Oh, it's blood. Righto.
Those evidence
He cut his little
that there's
pinky.
blood right along this trail. That's in the basement, in front of the bar. It is not reasonable to think that there is a legal justification for all of that. That's not reasonable.
It
What's
is.
reasonable is that's a crime scene. Because we have a
That's
man
not a
who was
crime
shot
scene.
twice at least, burning in the burn pile behind this house. To
It's
think otherwise
reasonable
is to
doubt, Bish.
and that is not legitimate. Means an opportunity. They had a lot
I
of stuff. They had a lot
cannot
of farm
believe
work.
she is
Farm
going
work
down that
there.
line.
And she's, you know what? She gets it done. She's determined. She's self-sufficient. And you know what really motivates someone? Getting caught for murder. It wouldn't have been easy for anyone to move that body. Not Scott
No.
by himself, not Chris by himself. Anyone would have needed something. And you know what? It's okay if you all think different ways in which she moved his body. One of you could think she used the tractor. One of you could think she used the RTV. One of you could think she literally just got down and rolled him there. It was all downhill, you saw. One of you could think she tied him up like a deer to the back of the RTV and dragged him over there. But he ended up on that burn pile. And a fairy didn't put him there. A murder fairy didn't put him there. No one else. There's no evidence anyone else found
Murder
that
fairy.
And to think differently is to seek doubt. She was in good shape, people.
Oh.
She had no choice but to move him, or she would have been caught literally red-handed. She's not stupid. That's why we're here today.
Murder fairy.
Now we're going to talk about guns. Scott doesn't have a pistol. We introduced that. She is a self-proclaimed not a bad shot. She told that to Terry. That means she's shot guns before. And remember, she's a farm girl. And 38 revolver, pretty easy to shoot. Martha Jane. Ooh, they're mad about Martha Jane. She is, as Mr. Fogus said, God-fearing. She needed to be right with God. She's not gonna lie to you. She noticed that gun was missing after Gary's murder. And it's reasonable for her to think that we put a gun in her hand for this murder. It's reasonable for her to think that. But it wasn't until she realized we didn't have a murder weapon, she was like, oh, they need my help. I gotta say something. And it was in a leather holster.
It's got to murder fairy.
Saw it. We know he was shot at least 2 times. These were shot from the same gun. And no, they're not consistent.
How do
with
we
the
know he
38
was shot 2
bullets found in
times?
Scott's apartment. They're just not.
Hmm.
And they're not consistent
Ow.
with a
Where?
357 or whatever other gun they think maybe involved. No, it's consistent with 38 special revolvers, not 357.
We don't know that.
I'm gonna talk about Melody's lies. She was interviewed by Sergeant Hayes and
I
Sergeant
hate when
Buckingham.
prosecutors just say stuff, especially on rebuttal when there's
Yeah.
nothing else that can come in. And it was not established. How do we know that he was shot 2 times? There was 1 bullet found in his body, and his body was so burnt up that nothing could be determined. Just nothing.
Yeah.
How do we know he was shot 2 times?
That is-
What? That's crap.
Yeah.
And so the jury's just going to walk away with like the last things that they heard, and they're just going to accept that. Oh yeah, he was shot 2 times, right? So where's the other bullet that we heard about throughout the trial? Oh, it was on the floor in the house, right? Now that bullet on the floor in the house has nothing to do with this shit. There's no way that there was a shooting in that house. If there was a shooting in that house, there would have been blood bloody everywhere. And signs of it too, signs of cleanup. There were like 3 drops. It was not a shooting in that house. I mean, I am an Australian. There are shootings here like once in every 5 years, and I've been watching enough of these things to know that shootings, there's blood.
Yeah.
There's a lot of blood. These people are in Georgia. You'd think they'd understand that there's shootings mean blood.
You'd think so.
You'd think. This is bullshit.
And when she was told that her husband of almost 39 years was shot, do you remember what her question was? Do you know what kind of bullet? That would not have even crossed my mind to ask. No suspicion? What do you mean he was shot? What? I thought what do you mean? He had health issues. She's not worthy of belief. She lied to them about Ted Wiley. She lied to them about her phone. She lied to them about Rusty Barton, her XO tattoo, going to Jamaica with Rusty, Gary going out to eat on the 3rd. She never mentioned that. Because you know what? She was waiting inside that house with her gun, ready to confront him. She lied about going to Walmart. She lied about how much money I spent nothing. Man, profligate spending? I had to look that word up. She kept saying Chris booked a beach trip. No. She knew Gary booked that. But she wanted to blame Chris. Gary, being on his deathbed, talking about blood. Occam's razor, y'all. The simplest answer is the truth. The simplest answer in this case is where all this evidence points, and that is to Melody Walker Farris. It points to no one else.
It's not simple at all.
This is not a series of coincidences. She was not framed. She's not the unluckiest woman in the world.
No, I hate that term.
And again, there's not a series of justifiable reasons that explain her conduct. There's just not. And there aren't justifiable explanations to explain the evidence. July 24th, Rusty says to law enforcement, she told me he's in the burn pile. She's arrested a year later, booked into Cherokee County. They have a jail call on June 24th, and whoop, on June 25th, he recants that statement. Y'all, there's Molly Farris for you. That manipulation. She knew Rusty was her Achilles heel in this case. She knew that. She had to shut it down. You know,
Rusty
really
did stuff up.
This is how she wanted it to go down. She knew the only way out of this marriage was murder. She knew that. I don't know why she thought that, but that is what she knew. Murdering the father of her children. She was hoping his body, being on that burn pile, would be chalked up to a health episode.
What? Oopsie!
She didn't think the sheriff's office would find that.
I fell on the burn pile.
She just didn't. That's clear. She didn't think there would be blood left in her home.
Oh.
She didn't think anyone would be looking for it.
Really?
She didn't think law enforcement would be all over that house. Well, we found it. And we kept digging, and we found more and more and more. We found out about your affairs, your disdain for your husband, your obsession with money and things and materialism. She never once encouraged law enforcement to find the person that actually did this. She didn't think this is how any of this would play out. She manipulated her own mother to have an affair with Ted Wiley. She manipulated Martha to have
I'm
an
not
affair
putting
with
that on
Rusty.
screen.
She manipulated Amanda to go with her to continue her affairs with Rusty. She manipulated Emily. She would go to Nashville to see Emily and disappear to go see Rusty. She used all of the people in her life. She used Sherry Cooper to see Rusty. She used Rusty to try to get away with murder. She used Scott Farris to try to get away with murder. She used Chris Farris to try to get away with murder. And she used Gary throughout the entire marriage. She had the motive, she had the means, and she's the only one who had those, and she's the only one who had the opportunity. There is no evidence this was Scott. Mr. Focus told you in opening we had to shrink the world.
Shrink the world.
And
That
that's
was,
what we
remember
did.
that? We need to
Yeah.
shrink the world. Shrink him.
There is no evidence that she had help. That would make our job a lot easier. Her help was
You
on the
like
phone with Rusty
shrinking.
Barton. There is no evidence it was anyone else. This evidence demands a verdict of guilty. Do not reward this criminal behavior. Do not reward her for almost succeeding
Do not reward
in
her.
burning up her husband's body, unrecognizable to the point where doctors,
That's not the
forensic
burden.
anthropologists cannot determine if any organs in his body had trauma. And no, you cannot tell me that there were no injuries on bones. Half those bones were gone. What you know is there was a bullet in his body and a bullet found in the basement with his DNA on it, and a gun that went missing from Martha Barton, who she had access to. She knew where that gun was. Do not reward her for almost concealing successfully the death, the gruesome death of her husband. Hold her accountable. Melody was the only one who wanted him dead. She was the only one who would benefit from him being gone. She was the only one repeatedly betraying him.
Okay.
There are no games here. Murder is not a chess game. It is malicious. And Gary did not deserve this. The last thing he saw was staring down the barrel of a .38 revolver in the hands of his bitter wife,
Oh, how Farris,
who was
thank you.
constantly betraying him.
Oh,
But this was the ultimate betrayal. Hold her accountable. You are the voice of Cherokee County in this case. You have the evidence to convict her beyond a reasonable doubt. We have proven it to you, and you have it. It's in the form of
You really
thousands of
haven't.
exhibits, testimony from the stand, audio, a lot of audio. If there is something you want to see or hear that you can't find back there, you send a note out to the judge. Do not reward her for
Do
being
not reward her.
a smart criminal. You are the voice of Cherokee County that we do not tolerate this in this county. You do not get to shoot and mutilate your life partner. You don't get to take away the grandfather of your grandchildren. That is not your choice to make. The ultimate betrayal.
Betrayal.
Gary will not walk through that door.
Well, he could.
And
That'd
that's
be
because
fun.
she took him off this planet. Find her guilty of all the counts in this indictment. The evidence and the law demand it.
I have never
All
heard
right,
such a
everyone in the audience, just stay
bitchy.
where you are. Jurors,
closing
y'all can take
argument.
a 15-minute break,
Yeah.
and then I'll give you the charge. That's going to be probably 40 to 50 minutes.
Right. Well, guess what?
Everybody, y'all can stand up if you want to, but y'all stay where you are.
Guess what? We get to skip forward about 3 days because it took them about 3 days or so.
Wow.
And apparently, what happened was they came back at an impasse twice. I think it was twice. So they couldn't come to a decision. They had people who were undecided or maybe not guilty, who knows? And judge was like, too bad, so sad, keep going, keep going, keep going. I have a big problem with that. Big problem with that, because that means that the people feel like they can't stick to their guns. They can't go, no, she's not guilty. No, she's not guilty. They're being pressured into a guilty verdict, right?
For sure.
Imagine being that person in there who's like, no, I'm not convinced. No, I'm not convinced. Well, we just can't go home until we come to a unanimous decision, right? So he's just not going to let us. It's clear. He's not going to let us go home. We've been here for months already, for God's sake. I want to go back to my job. I'm losing money, la, la, la. Right? So I have a big, big problem with that. So eventually there was a decision, and it was this. So let's go.
Heard at least 6 Amber Alerts while I was in the back buzzing in here. So if that happens, I'll just ignore it and pretend I didn't hear it. I want everyone to just understand that the jury's been working diligently on this case. For the last 4 weeks of trial and for the last several days of deliberation, I don't want any outbursts one way or the other.
No outbursts.
You can't, if you don't think you'll be able to restrain yourself one way or the other, then you need to step out. All right, anything else we need to take up before we bring the jurors in? All right, we have our 2 alternates, all right? All right, go ahead and bring them. Well, we have 4, but only two are coming.
Come on, come on.
It was not a good idea to stand, even though maybe it was okay. And the attorney explained it, saying that in his mind,
Come on.
Foreman.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Signed by you as foreman.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, if you'll hand it to the bailiff, then I'll review it and then I'll hand it back to you. All right. If you'll hand that back to the foreman. All right, sir, as foreman, I'm going to have you stand and publish your verdict. You can do that just by saying, "We, the jury," and then to each count.
Uh-oh. What's going on? Roro. Awkward. What'd I do? Did Hella do something? Okay, well. Shit. Oh, there she is. Suffa Hella.
Stop it. I tried to add the new manlet and everything crashed. Like everything, right? And it was just on We the Jury. Can you believe that? Unbelievable. Okay. Right, I'm bringing it back. Sorry. Huh.
Seemed like it was a.
That was
not
a
working.
really weird moment for that to happen. It was
Yeah.
like an intervention
I
from
know.
Melody. Okay.
Or
All
Melody.
right. So
Still your verdict.
here we go.
Number 79?
All right, sir, was that your verdict in the jury room?
Yes,
Was the verdict agreed to by you?
yes,
And is it still your verdict?
it is.
All right, you may be seated. That's all of our jurors. All right, anything else?
Hang on. Has it happened?
Yeah.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen,
No, I'll go back.
and is it? All right, ma'am, is that your verdict?
Ugh.
Bailiff? All right. If you'll hand that back to the foreman. All right, sir, as foreman, I'm going to have you stand and publish your verdict. You can do that
Finally.
just by saying,
Oh, now she gets to
"We, the
stand.
jury," and then to each count, say, "We find the defendant guilty or not guilty," as to each count.
Big Daddy got me.
We, the jury, as to the count 5, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 4, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 3, we find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, as to count 2,
So is it big
find
one?
the defendant guilty. And we, the jury, as to count 1, find the defendant guilty.
All right, if you'll hand it back to the bailiff. Madam Bailiff, if you show it to counsel. All right, anything y'all want to take up?
No. Oh, we would ask you to poll the jury.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the defense has asked that you be polled. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. We're going to run through each one of you. if you still remember your original jury number. If you don't, we'll give you some prompting. But if you'll stand up, we will then I'll ask you a series of questions, and then I'll move to the next juror. After you see me do it twice, you'll understand what we're doing. All right? So
What's this moment here?
it's on when best time to do sentencing would be. We'll try to get that scheduled for you. All right? But ma'am, you will be remanded into custody after you've been convicted. Your bond is deemed insufficient at this time. You'll be taken into custody to await sentencing. All right? All right, y'all can take her in the back. If y'all need a chance to talk to her, y'all keep her here for a little bit so that the attorneys can talk to her if they need to.
Wow. Gee.
Still with us, criminal defense attorneys Jack Rice and national trial attorney Michael Jafer.
Oh, God. Hang on a minute. Let's see if this crashes my computer. Well, it didn't crash my computer. It crashed my browser.
Weird.
Oh, no. Here we go. Ready? Hey!
Hey.
and he's gotten a bit shorter as well, right? So taller, shorter, and to the right. Taller, shorter, and to the right. Hey! Woo! Thank you for sticking around, Dali. I know it went a little bit longer than we hoped.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, but you know what that means? It means that he's not actually right on top of you as we go into this view. So Scott, suffer.
Yeah, he's kind of like on my shoulder now.
It's on your shoulder now. Yeah.
It's like my little
Okay.
angel.
So we might still do, and because I kind of had wanted all along for the last episode of this to be the sentencing. So it will all make sense. All of the stuff that's in the song makes sense. Because like the wording comes from her sentencing speech, It was you, Scott, and now I know why. And you got so mad when I went to feed the baby goats. Right? She said that in the sentencing speech. Yeah. So I kind of would like to you happy now, Scott? Yeah. I kind of like to still play that. So I think we'll do that. Yeah. Sentencing, yeah. Let's watch the sentencing with us. Yeah, yeah. So we'll do that. Probably next week. Yeah, next week. Make a remix for the outro of next stream. Maybe. Hello, Babu. Or Junior Babu, the other Babu. Yeah. You're so creative that you can't come up with a name for your other cat, so you just call it Babu Junior.
Well, he's like the little one.
He's a small one. I thought that when we got a kitten that the kitten would be the small one, but actually she's grown up to be giant. She just eats and eats and eats. Yeah. Or at least a standalone video of the song. I am going to do a standalone video of the song so that you guys can just play it and play it and play it if you want. Kind of like I did with the Sarah one. All right, that's enough, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Ilya. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for hanging out.
You're welcome. Appreciate
it. I'm going to go and offload the child because she's here another day. Unbelievably, she's got another 3-day week or 4-day week or something, which is ridiculous. Yeah, and yeah, we're in election mode. Unfortunately, we have another election this week.
Fun.
So the Canadians are having election. You guys, an election now?
Tomorrow, I think.
Tomorrow? What do you have an election on a weekday? Really?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we always
on
have ours on
Tuesday.
the weekend. Oh, that's right, you guys do. Yeah, we always have ours on a Saturday. Yeah, so ours is on Saturday. You guys are what? Monday? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, ours is on Saturday. Great. Fantastic. So yeah, join me Canada election coverage tomorrow. Oh really? Fun. Fun. Scotland imminent. I'm sure it is. Okay, guys. Thank you guys for hanging out. Time for the song.
Actually, for the record, I do know who Australia's prime minister is.
Do you?
Yeah, Elbow.
Elbow.
So,
ALB. It's actually his real name is Albanese.
Yeah,
But all our prime ministers have to have like a shortened Aussie sounding name, otherwise they're not popular. Well, they make up their own Aussie sounding
of course.
nickname. Yeah, because they have to sound like you could call out their name at a pub. Hey, Elbow, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, but you can't make fun of him though.
Oh, you can't make fun of him. He gets really butthurt.
Yeah, because you couldn't have the storm named after him.
We couldn't have the hurricane named Anthony because not hurricane.
Cyclone.
I hang out with you people too much. The cyclone. We couldn't have the cyclone named after him because couldn't have anything that causes death and destruction named after a prime minister. That would be terrible.
Of course not.
Yeah. Anyways, time for song.
Her name was Helen. She was an Aussie. She was a fake lawyer from the future. She got on YouTube and made some nice. Close to Dali and she dances sometimes. The words are always so lovely because she's an
idiot.
Sorry, kitty.
Her cat is staring through windows, listening.